In 2018, the Western North Carolina Conference Archives relocated from the conference office building in Charlotte to the campus of Pfeiffer University in Meisenheimer, North Carolina, about 40 miles northeast of Charlotte. The archives are located in the G.A. Pfeiffer Library on the Pfeiffer campus. Hello, I am Jim Pyatt. I am the archivist for the Western North Carolina Conference. Our assistant archivist is Sonia Clow, and we are privileged to have her on staff working with us in terms of doing research for those wanting information on local churches and people in the Western North Carolina Conference. The archives is the repository of documents related to closed churches, active congregations, clergy of the conference, conference boards and agencies.
We have files of all of the churches in our conference. This is just one of them, but inside you might find a bulletin from a homecoming celebration. You might find a list of pastors or even newspaper clippings of a vacation Bible school.
The contents vary wildly from one church to another, depending upon the materials that have been submitted by the local church and by others. We have deeds for virtually every church in the conference, and we have other documentation as well. For example, I have pulled the records for our Wesley Chapel United Methodist Church, which is located about a mile from the library where we are at this recording. This is the file we have from Wesley Chapel. Among the materials we have from Wesley Chapel are newspaper clippings and pictures related to a fire that destroyed the sanctuary on February 19th, 1967, construction documents, letters, and other documents related to the construction of the current sanctuary at Wesley Chapel, articles related to the dedication of the parsonage, charge conference records, and various other records related to that congregation and its history. Another resource that we have here in the archives that is helpful for local church historians are the Western North Carolina Conference journals. Each year, the Western North Carolina Conference publishes a journal of the annual conference. In here is a complete list of the appointments for the coming year, a complete list of all the clergy, their addresses and telephone numbers, the reports from all the boards and agencies in the conference, the minutes of the annual conference session, and statistics on every church in the annual conference. Many of these items can come in very handy for local churches in terms of doing research on your church's history. For example, you can look at the appointment list and see who your pastor was in a particular year. You can also look at the statistics and see what the membership was at a particular time in history, how many joined the church that year, how many died that year, the average attendance at worship service. And also you can see how much money was given for missions or other projects. Also very helpful is each year there is a section in the journal of memoirs of clergy who have died. You can look up former pastors who have gone on to the church triumphant and read about their career in ministry, read where all they have served and some of the things they did in ministry at your church and at other congregations. A journal that is especially helpful for many churches is the 1939 Conference Journal, the Western North Carolina Conference. You see, in 1939, the Methodist Episcopal Church, the Methodist Episcopal Church South, and the Methodist Protestant Church all merged to form the Methodist Church. Sometimes a church is not sure which denomination they were part of prior to the 1939 merger, and knowing which denomination you are part of helps immensely in finding who your pastor was and any other relevant records pre-1939. In the 1939 journal, beginning on page 81, is a list of church school superintendents. In that list of church school superintendents, there are markings indicating which churches are part of the former Methodist Episcopal Church, which ones are part of the former Methodist Episcopal Church South, and which ones are part of the former Methodist Protestant Church. This is a quick and easy way to determine which branch of Methodism your church came from. Another resource that we have in the Western North Carolina Conference archives are files on every clergy who have served in the Western North Carolina Conference. In those files, we have a copy of their service record. In most cases, we have several pictures. We also have their memoir from the conference journal if they are deceased. And occasionally we have other documentation related to their ministry and career of service. These can be very helpful as you look up former clergy and try to tell something of the story of the people who have served as pastor of your congregation. We also have a number of quarterly conference minute books from the 19th and early 20th century. While we do not by any means have all the ones, we do have enough that we can check and see if we have something related to your congregation. These quarterly conference minute books help to tell both when churches were organized, tell something about the life and ministry of the clergy and laity that were in positions of leadership in those circuits at that particular time, and also can help to date when churches came into existence. An example of how these quarterly conference minute books come in play happened when I was asked to do some research on a local pastor who served in Haywood County in the second half of the 19th century. The only records we have from the conference journals is that he was ordained a local deacon in 1862. Yet I could go to the quarterly conference minutes, see where he was regularly in attendance, where he even served as secretary of the quarterly conference on multiple occasions, could tell that he was out of Shady Grove Church in Haywood County, and could tell other things about him, his life, and ministry. As you research your local church's history, Sonia and I will be more than glad to assist you with your research. You can contact us through either the email addresses or the phone number that is listed on this screen, and we will be glad to provide answers to your questions. You are welcome to also to set up an appointment to come and research with us. We suggest that if you come and research, you contact us in advance to make an appointment. We're normally here on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Also, it helps for us to know in advance so that we can check and see what we have that might be of relevance or of help to you as you research your local church's history.